the overall, do stuff, work on it.
Yes.
Don't play video
Research,
games.
study a lot.
Don't play video games. Stop Netflix. Stop with Vampire Diaries. That stuff is
No.
addicting. Just work. Sit and work. That's great, man. I get so hyped with people that have day jobs and other careers
and still work their butts.
yeah, I get
Yeah.
so hyped. I have some friends that are writers, and I get so happy to talk with those people.
Yeah.
Hello, my name is Annie, and you are listening to World of Webcomics, a podcast in which I interview creative people who are making comics for online readers. And today, I actually have two guests for you. They are Eduardo and Mika of Barbusco Studios. They are a married couple and a writer, artist / colorist team, and I think that alone created for some really unique insight. And I also just want to say that they are hilarious and engaging and insightful, and I just love this interview and I love everything that they're doing. They're YouTubers as well, so check out their comics and their videos and know that we do discuss it in the interview itself, and I will reiterate that at the end of the interview too. They're awesome. I loved doing this one, and I had a blast even just listening to it again in the post-production. So I hope you enjoy as well. Without further ado, let's go to the interview. Well, if you guys are ready, I guess we will start with if you could introduce yourself and what you are known for.
Yeah, I am known for doing, maybe two things. Like, we work on a webcomic called Children of the Moon. We've been updating it for like 2 years. No, more.
Yeah,
Even
more.
But I've worked professionally in some some webcomics. I think one webcomics and some comics to be published yet. Mika.
Yeah, and I am a colorist, and I'm known for coloring.
Yeah, but you work
Yeah,
professionally.
I work professionally with some comics that will be published yet, and I work with Edu coloring his our webcomic too.
Yeah, I think we should mention that we work as a team.
Yeah,
like,
we are married.
Yeah, too. We're married too. But I am line artist, right? Like, in comics, in American comics, you usually work in a team. Like, you have the pencil artist, the ink artist, the colorist, the letterist, the writer. So here I don't color because I'm not really good at it.
He's awful.
And Mika, so I write and I do the lines, and Mika color it. Even not just on our comics and anything that we do. We do fan art sometimes and some illustrations. And Mika is the one that's responsible for the coloring and for checking my stuff.
Everything better.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. You guys kind of complement each other's strengths and skills.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And what is your team name, just so that I have the pronunciation correct?
Barbusco.
Yeah, it's Barbusco.
Barbusco Studios, right?
Yeah, yeah. Barbusco is like a...
It's a mishmash of our both of our last names.
Oh, that's cute. Yeah, I could see that. That makes sense. So I'd also love to just have some backstory on you guys and how each of you got into art, and then how you kind of decided to make art your main thing.
Oh, our story is very fun. Because
yeah, I'm excited.
Because it's like this. Me and Mika, we've always, as with most artists, we've always
been artistic.
we since our childhoods, right? But me in Brazil, where we live, it's even worse than the US and other countries. Like, you don't
do art.
You don't do art.
Don't do that.
It's not something that you do, because you will starve. Like you have this notion, and I always had this notion, right? My mother was artistic, but never ever I ever thought to work as an artist. So
Yeah, we don't
I
have this culture like, oh, you want to do art? Yeah, sure. No, your parents just you never think about it because all you hear is that you earn nothing.
yeah, yeah.
Especially here because we don't have many comics, etc.
Yeah, yeah, it's mostly imported from other countries like
Yeah.
America, especially Japan and some Italian. But I graduated as an engineer, and I, after hating working as an engineer for some years, I discovered that yes, you can earn money working as an artist. So I started to relearn art and specialize in comics and started to take classes. And about that time, we were already married, right?
Yeah.
Right, we were living together already. And Mika always worked on some artistic things. Like she liked to do, yeah,
Sculptures, yeah. And
some drawings,
yeah,
right?
some drawings, yeah, but more like a hobby.
Yeah, more like a hobby. But I then started to work on some, like, collaborate with some writers, to work on some small comics, like 5-page comics. And I had a very basic notions of coloring, and I asked Mika to help me. Like, can you just flat the colors, just block the colors overall, and then after I would just color it. So she accepted, and then after that I was, can you just try to color it, and I explained all I knew at the time, and she liked it.
Yeah, and I was already better than him. So
And things just escalated quickly after that. She
yeah.
started to like that a lot. We started to plan working on some comics together.
Yeah. I paid
And
for some courses.
yeah, yeah, she some courses online. And after some time, I mean, we started to work together on that comic, the Children of the Moon, the web comic that we still working on. And over the years where we develop our skills,
Yeah.
right?
And
And
we are still developing.
yes, but that's it. Like, we're just like, yeah, can you do it? And then our studio was built, was
Yeah.
founded.
Very cool. Well, I understand from some of the artist comments on the webcomic. Is it true that you guys also recently went back to school?
Recently, like 2 years ago. But
No, not 2 years ago. I
you
was,
you were like last year, but me,
yeah,
I was back at school because uh we, at the start of the comic, I started my first art classes ever, which
yeah,
was like 5 years ago or something.
yeah, yeah.
And but I was like very arrogant, I would say, because I was like, I don't need this teacher, I don't need anyone, I already
I'm
know how
I'm
to
already better
I
than
already better
everyone.
than everyone. Then I just dropped art school. It was a specialized, not it was a small art school. It was specialized in comics. And I don't want to work for Marvel or DC. I don't care about them. I would just work on my comic. But after some time and trying to, get art jobs and failing a lot, I was like, yeah, I need to get a job. So I really need to get very good at this. So I went back to that school,
To that same teacher.
to that same teacher, and I was like, yeah, I humbled myself there. I was like, how can I be better? And then you can even see that in the economy, because we took a hiatus, because I was like, either I finish this comic as fast as I can, or I stop and just focus as much as I can in my classes. I decided to do the second one. And when we came back, you can see a amazing improvement in
Yeah.
our comic, in the
And
art. Yeah.
that was the time that I also went to class with my first teacher, and my colors were better than previously. But after a year or so, I decided to do the same thing as I do and go back. Oops, sorry, go back to classes, but with another teacher. And in my opinion, it was what changed majorly on my colors. They got like 100% better than they were before, because the first teacher I had, it he gave me feedback, but it wasn't like super detailed. And this one, we had online calls, and he told me everything that went wrong, everything that went right, and that helped me a lot. So we got really better.
I think there's a couple of really important lessons to learn from that. One, that we can always be learning, and
Yes.
it's okay to take a hiatus or a break as long as you finish. Like
Yes.
it's
Yeah.
better to prioritize quality, I
Yeah,
think.
I actually think that that's something that many creators, like creators, don't do, and they should do more. Like they should try to improve more. Like take some time to really get better. Because I know the feeling that, oh no, it's okay now. Because art is very hard, right?
Yes.
Art is very hard to cease to really open yourself to critiques, to people say no, it's not good enough. So many creators I see don't do that. They don't take time to improve and get better. And I think something that we
Yeah.
as the art community should do more.
Definitely. And walking back a little bit, it's interesting to hear your perspective of how in Brazil there's kind of this mentality that, or especially so, that art is not a viable career option. Because in recent years, I feel like I've been hearing more about comics and like indie video games from Brazil. So do you feel like, I mean, current events aside, that like in more recent years that is changing?
I think so, especially I don't really know about the indie comics, the indie games market in Brazil. I know that there are some games that are getting some notoriety here, but
Mm,
games, especially games, are more cost a lot more, are more expensive to make.
Yeah.
Comics are way less expensive, but
mm.
especially if, Indiegogo and Kickstarter, and people getting angry at the mainstream comics publishers and how they handle their stories. You see a lot more people really uh, using those crowdfunding sites to to build their brand, to build comics, and you
Yeah, it
you are
helps a
starting
lot.
to see that a lot, and you're kind of seeing it in
Yeah.
Brazil too,
We
like a
have
boom.
other, we have actually even crowdfunding sites, Brazilian crowdfunding
Yeah,
sites,
you will
that
have here,
has a lot of comics.
and we have our own Comic Con here. It's Comic Con Experience. It's called. It's the biggest in the South America, and yeah, it's kind of booming, but it's still hard,
Yeah.
because
And
it's
if we were to work for Brazilians, we would earn
yeah,
nothing.
yeah,
It would be like our parents always said.
yeah. Because the problem is not that there are no interest here, because there is
Mm,
interest here. People, I would say that maybe the market here in Brazil it's better than the United States in some ways, because like
mm.
here, one thing is that you see a lot of professional comic people, like comic hobbies in the Americas, say that there's a problem with the industry is that they don't have many places to put the comics, to sell the comics. They sell the comics only in specialized comic shops, right? Here in Brazil, you can walk to in the street, and the when
The newsstand
the
has
newsstand,
comics.
yeah, the newsstands here sell comics, sell manga, and people buy comics from newsstands, not from specialized comic shops. So we have a lot of places and people buy a lot of stuff. People love indie comics here. Indie comics, especially indie comics, are booming here. But the problem is the price. The problem is the money. The way they cost and how much people are willing to pay
Yeah,
for these comics, I think is the most problematic to leave off comics here in
yeah.
Brazil.
And also because people think that, uh, like we said, if we were to work for Brazilians, we would earn a lot less, and they don't think about trying to work with international people like we are doing
Yeah,
now.
yeah. Working with international, it's the way to go here.
Yeah, because
Because
for Brazilians,
even learning, I mean, very small
wage
wage,
rate,
yeah,
page
even
page
page
rate.
rate, we can earn way more than other Brazilians here.
That makes sense. There's definitely an interest, but then the cost is presents a problem. Do you think
Yeah.
that webcomics are going to play a role at all in being a possible solution to that problem?
Honestly, I don't think so.
Hmm.
Because one of the problems with webcomics that I am seeing and I am experiencing, uh I mean, people love webcomics, and if you see how many people are reading it, it's crazy. It's like a new industry. But the problem is, those people that are reading webcomics, that love these webcomics, that are fans, they are not willing to expend money,
Hmm.
to open their wallets, and you see that with a lot of creators in webcomics.
Yeah,
You look at their Patreon pages, uh, even though Patreon is not really a good to measure that stuff, but even so, you see, like, people like, for example, we are not very famous, right? We
no.
have like 6,000,
Almost 7,000
almost 7,000 readers,
subscribers.
subscribers to our webtoon. But we try, I mean, a few years ago, we tried to open a Patreon page, and like two people were interested,
Yeah,
and you look at some people that have 100,000 subscribers,
yeah,
and their Patreon page is like they're earning like $100 per month. And you'll see, I was following Jason Brubaker. It's the creator of Citra, a very famous web comic on webtoons even. And he already had a very many other successful Kickstarters before. And when he tried Kickstarter with Citra, it was not, much more successful. It was normal. So it's not like webtoons is really changing stuff. People are not really willing to pay for that. So
yeah,
when you compare, like, when you see like the big boys on webtoons, you would imagine they are earning big cash, because
yes,
there are so many people reading that.
yes,
If professional comics like Superman had the same numbers, like, it would be crazy. But no, we don't see that the viewership translating to money to those creators. So that worries me.
yeah,
Perhaps then it could be seen more as like a piece of the puzzle because someone like Jason Brubaker, who has been able to be successful selling his comics through like an independent route, like using Kickstarter, has put a lot of effort into like building an audience. So maybe Webtoon is just like one part of building that audience.
Yeah, I really don't know. In my opinion, I see webtoons as a place for to share my creation. Because I see,
yeah,
like, I could sell this comic maybe, and like, maybe if I'm very lucky, like 300 people would buy. If I would be very very lucky. So I would have 300 people in the world buy it and read it. But when I post it on Webtoons, there are at least every page that I post, 2,000 people or more are reading it and enjoying it. And I'm very happy with that. I'm much more happy by posting it for free and having many people enjoy it and read it, then earning a little bit of cash. But I don't really know if Webtoons is a great tool to get an audience, because I've been trying that, like posting, showing my Instagram, like people, you can see behind the scenes stuff in my Instagram. You can see, and almost no one follows. And I just like I said, 2,000 every page that I post, 2,000 people read it. Almost no one follows the Instagram. So it happens with a lot of many other platforms. It's very hard to take to take the following of some platform and uh, get them to another platform. I think
Yes.
I think the only one, I mean, the best one is YouTube. So that's why I'm trying to get in there, because YouTube, it looks like the best one. Like, it's discoverable. People like to relate to you as a person. They like the content that they make, and when you show that you have other platforms, people are willing to click on the link,
Yes.
unlike Webtoons, for example.
I would agree, and it's like we were talking about before too, that it I think benefits you to make yourself familiar and approachable, because then people are invested in you and in what you're doing. Are you hoping to eventually go to print regardless?
Yes.
That's my plan. I don't know if, well, just like I said, I really don't know if people would really jump into a quick starter. I will try. I will try, but I really don't know. I hope. I mean, I hope 30 people buy it, because
Yeah.
it will be for me in my initial, math. It would be enough for me to print here in Brazil like 200 copies and then try to sell it through my own website. But if that doesn't go through, I will try print on demand, because it's something that I've seen some creators, from book creators, like writers, not comic creators. They are using the print on demand with
Yes, from
Amazon
Amazon, etc.
and
Yeah.
other. There are some others, and it's like the how they work, with print on demand, and almost none of the comic creators are using that. And the way I'm seeing, it's a really safe way to sell your physical comics, because maybe you cannot sell like 100 or 50 copies, but maybe 10 people will buy it. And if you are already posting it for free, why not let those 10 people buy it,
Yep.
and there's one thing that I don't really like with crowdfunding, is like you print like 100 or 200, or for some of the most successful, like 500 or 2,000, and then when it's over, it's over. If I try to buy something from Jason Brubaker, like Remind, one of his earliest stuff, I cannot, because it's sold out, and he's not going to reprint it again.
Yeah. Too much work.
So I wonder about, like, in 5 years, like this comic, even though the art sucks in the beginning, I it's my baby, I love the story. It's something, and I really would like to sell it for the rest of my life. Hopefully,
Yeah.
if I don't, and if I'm not ashamed, too ashamed of it in the future. But I hope to keep selling it, and print on demand. I'm, at least from I seeing right now, it's a really good options for even for comic book creators.
I think that's a really good point, and honestly, something I haven't really considered because I have done like a little Kickstarter just to kind of test it out, and it was it was hard. So, on-demand printing is a good idea. And I do have to disagree. I still like the art in the beginning, especially the origin
Oh
story.
no!
No, no, no,
All the
no, no.
stuff about the first cat was really cool. Like that was I liked that.
No,
Ah,
I like the first
the
cat design.
design is kinda okay, but the art, oh my
The
god,
colors are also too dark,
it's
and
so that I was
it was awful when we tested the print. It was just
because
everything
we
dark and
printed
awful.
one copy. We have one printed copy, like just to know how it would feel. And it's so funny how like I was too like it's an horror comic, so
Yeah,
it has to be
super
dark,
dark.
super dark, and it oh man, it's dark everywhere. It's so hard to see.
Yeah,
That is funny how I've gotten similar advice before because I have some horror elements that will be in my comic, and
Ooh, nice.
yeah. And in the past, I've done horror comics, and when I was at a portfolio review one time, the reviewer told me to look at the impressionists and look at how they're able to create shadow with color as well. Not you don't have to use just hard blacks all the time.
yeah, yeah.
Uh, do you feel like especially as the colorist, that is a struggle to try to create a sense of atmosphere while still considering how things are going to look on the computer versus how they're going to look in print?
Yeah, since I had classes with professional colorists, I had a lot of help with that. I was used to uh, shadows equals black mostly, and they helped me a lot with that. And nowadays I don't feel as much as struggle with the shadows, but I feel a struggle with if an object is supposed to be black. I kind of have issues with that. Oh my god, what do I do? Do I make it gray? Do I make it blue? I don't know. But I am working it out.
I feel like it's always so hard, even just in the flat color stage, because everything is relative. Like colors look different when they're next to another color.
Yeah.
So I think it's the most difficult early on when you're just choosing like what the palette.
Yes, it is very difficult. It was flats usually are what takes me more time. And I really struggle with choosing colors at first, but then
I
I
find
just
it so
what?
funny. Like she says those things, but she's so fast with that, and she's so confident. And she says, "Oh, I
Okay.
struggle with those things," and then one day 4 pages done. You know.
Just because I am saying nothing, it doesn't mean that I'm not despairing inside, okay?
That's fair. What role do you think that color plays in storytelling? Because I think it can make a big impact.
It does. I think it can make or break the story because it has a really big role in narrative. It kind of, along with the help of the line arts, they push the eyes of the reader where you want it to be, you know. So I think it's very important for you to think through with the colors. Try not to make something pop when you don't want it to, when it's not important, etc.
And it's something that in professional comics, people already say that a lot, actually, that colorists don't get enough credit. And I
Yeah, they don't.
completely agree. Like, I've seen some professional artists, line artists, say, like, it's not that it makes it better, the color makes it better, it's that the colors can make it worse. If the colors are not right, it can make it worse. And I disagree. I think it really makes it pop. Without the color is like 50% or even more of the narrative.
Yes.
You as a line artist, of course there's a bunch of, I think it's there's a lot of more things that I as a line artist have to work out in the narrative, but the colors have a tough job too.
Yeah, we are very underrated. It reminds me of a story that my teacher told me that his friend is a colorist too, and he worked with a line artist for some movie poster or something, and the line artist gets the royalties, but the colorist
Yeah,
doesn't.
yeah. It happens in professional comics,
Yep.
American comics.
It is interesting how certain stages of the process have more value placed on them. And it's also really cool to be able to be talking to a team. And so I'd love to hear about what the process is like for you guys when it involves creating an episode of Children of the Moon.
Um, I it's already outlined just from the beginning. I already outlined it, and I just wrote it in a page, like what the beginning, the middle, and the end. And then I worked out from, because I tried to make it a little more like traditional in a way that it had issues, like chapters with somewhat like 25 pages it or something like that. So I wrote chapter one, the traditional script, like a professional comic book
With the
script.
speeches, with what is
Yeah,
happening,
like
etc.
I was writing like for some another artist, because I wanted to practice that. And I when I started working on webcomics, I follow a lot of Jason Brubaker's advice, and one of his advice was to write a script. Because funny, I've seen some of other interviews you made, and almost none of them, I think none of them actually work on scripts. They work on some outlines, but there's no speeches. They put the
Yeah.
speeches after. And funny enough, that's normal. It's
Yeah.
normal. People don't like to write the speech.
It's very funny because I worked on a web comic. It was Pokemon fan comic, and it was the writer and the he was the writer
And
and
the artist.
artist that hired me. And one day I asked him about the script, and he said, "Oh, I just write more or less what's happening, and then after you color it, I think about what they are saying."
And that happens a lot. I don't think that's good, to be honest. I
Yeah.
think you the speech, the way that the characters talk, are one of the most important things.
Yes.
I think I know.
It makes the
Yeah,
character.
I think I know that why we comic creators don't write it. It's because it's hard.
Yeah,
I
it's
think it's
very
because it's
hard
hard.
to think what another person would say in that situation.
We
It's kind of
actually,
a
because we are artists, like, and we want to get to the art and finish it as soon as possible and look at it finished. So oh no, no, he says something like this, but I don't think it's the best you can do, because you really need to practice on how they are speaking. That's something that happens with me, that I change some of the speech bubbles, because I write the script, and okay, it's fine. Mika reviews it, and when I'm working on the pages, when I'm lettering it, I'm like, this is not okay. I mean, the character wouldn't say it like that, and so I change some stuff
you gotta
after I.
make it believable that it is another
Yeah,
person.
yeah.
In our case, a
That's
cat.
one. That's another cat, but that's how I work. I have a script. I write the a script for a whole chapter. Then I do the layouts for each page. I do I
Thumbnails.
thumbnails. Yeah, the thumbnails, the or layouts, and I work it for the whole chapter, like 25 thumbnails, and then I start to ink it.
To
And
sketch.
yeah, no, nowadays I work. I ink directly on top of the layout.
Oh.
At the beginning, I used to pencil it and
He
then
used
ink.
to make like 5 layers of sketches.
Yes, and now it's way faster, But when I ink it, I don't ink all pages. I ink a page, then make a color, and we publish it. Nowadays, I we're kind of we're having some
Backlog.
yeah, backlog somewhat,
Yes,
but
like 2 pages instead of.
yeah, but it's yeah, that's our process.
Yeah, I find that working in batches helps a lot. Do you work chronologically when you're working in batches, or do you kind of skip around to like the parts that you want to draw?
No, I work chronologically.
Yeah.
I don't think it's good to work in that way because you know, because I know that there's this kind of impulse on jumping to other scenes, but I think that's kind of bad because that means that you are not liking what
What is happening?
yeah,
Like
you are
it's not
Mm,
interesting,
like
you know.
I noticed that when I was trying to write some books, you know, and I was like listening to some writers tips, you know, on what to write, and I noticed that it's somewhat of bad behavior writers. They like to jump around. Oh no, this part is cool, and I want to do. And I noticed that happens because actually you don't like what's happening right now. You are not excited by what's happening right
Yeah.
now.
And if
So
you don't like it, imagine
yeah,
your
if you
reader.
don't like it, imagine the reader. So I think you should rethink it. Always when that happens, I try to rethink it.
that's a good point. Yeah, it just makes me reflect. I need to edit. I need to
Uh,
edit now. But yeah, it's funny. A lot of the people I've talked to, I was surprised because I would be drawn to their stories because it appeared to me they had a very clear vision and writing structure, and
Mm.
yet a lot of them have a kind of like a storyboarding approach where they'll kind of do both simultaneously. And I think a lot of people can make that work, but younger artists I think would benefit from studying like the craft of writing. And that's
yes.
Yes.
something that you mention in your videos too, is like I think one of the tips for in like uh the mistakes people make when they're
Yeah.
doing web comics, which is a very good video, which I'll have linked.
Thank you. Thank
uh,
you.
I think you say just stop, just have a beginning, middle, and end. Like just end it. So do you have any advice for writing? Like, how should people approach their storytelling?
Wow, that's a deep question.
Damn.
Ah, man.
Is that I don't know if that's too broad, but like for you, what has been the most beneficial when you have been honing the craft?
I think it's the mindset. I try to work in every, not just writing. I think in every part of the craft, like the the art, the line, the comics, everything. I try to think it's a practice for me to work professionally in Marvel, for example. So when I'm, because I like to create comics, right? I don't want to just work on some superhero or some work on other people's or some other people creation. So I want to create my own stuff. So I try to like, so I need to write this comic book. It does just don't need to exist. So I need to use this as a practice to be a professional, you know, as a portfolio. So when I write as if I was writing for another artist. Like if I would be writing to another Marvel artist or DC artist. And when I do the art, same thing. I mentioned, maybe I mentioned in one of my videos that the moment in my life that my art really improved was when I was desperate to get a job. And I like, so I need to get a job. So what I need to be professional, and then I open myself to learn, right? And I think that that's what really helps you to improve, when you open yourself to really improve and look at other professional artists are doing, right? And in writing is that is just like that, because I looked at some books on writing. I look on some, especially YouTube. I have a lot of stuff, you know. So what are writing tips, and what are the professional writing comic book writers are doing? What are the professional comic book artists are doing? And I should do like that. I try to humble myself, because I understand. I'm not saying that it's wrong and you shouldn't do that, but I think it's a good practice as an artist, even if it's not your hobby, but I mean, even if it's not your main income, you are publishing an amazing webcomic, and wow, maybe this will become your main income, and you get famous, and so I think you should open yourself to improve, and open yourself to how other successful artists in the industry are doing. And I try to, when I talk to other amateur artists, or people that are learning and want to learn and become a professional, when I talk to them, I always like, you should. These are the best practice, And I see a lot of pushback from the art community. Actually, people like, no, there's no wrong way of
Yeah.
doing stuff. That's not how we do, and and that's something that happens a lot. But yeah, I think it's the approach, not just writing, but to everything I do relating to
Yeah.
comics and art.
Yeah, you guys made another video too about how art is not subjective, how you
Mhm.
can't use like, well, it's my style
Yeah,
as a defense,
that was
right?
very controversial.
No, I mean, that was not the most controversial one. The most
Oh yeah.
controversial one was the title was a little clickbait, but like working for free, which is actually
Mm,
collaboration,
yes.
and
Which is things that people do in the art community, but they don't like. They didn't like that we said that we
yeah,
should do
people
collaborations.
people like the art community. It's something that I'm very sad about the art community, because people are great. It's the most inspirational thing, you like to be part of it, but people, when you try to like, oh, here maybe this is something that you should do, like it's the best practice, or when you try, people are very, how can I say, like,
Like defensive.
Yes.
yeah, yeah, very defensive. Like, everything needs to be fun. That everything needs to be
I
love,
mean,
and everything needs to be, oh
yeah,
no, no hurt, and art is perfect. And I mean, it is that too. But if you want to improve,
yeah.
if you want
If you
to
want
do
to have a
better,
job on it,
especially
because
job, and I
a lot of people want to have jobs in the comic industry, but if they aren't willing to take collaborations for practice, they won't ever learn to work with other people, which is the most important thing. Sometimes you don't need to be a good colorist, but if the artist likes you because you are a good teammate, they will always ask for you. And people don't see that because, oh my god, are you saying that you should work for free? Whoa, it's difficult.
Right. It's funny because people do like work with friends and make like anthologies together, not
Yeah.
realizing that that is kind of what they're doing.
Yes.
And I think you guys make that distinction too, that you want to be careful of situations in which you would be taken advantage of or not
yeah,
benefit from.
Yeah, of course.
But of course, what you guys aren't saying that. You're not saying like just take any job.
Yeah,
You're
no.
saying,
yeah.
yeah.
It's something that, I mean, I know that you always have to be careful with words, but I tried. I think that's obvious. It's
Yeah, we
something that
tried to
have.
be very clear, but people started to add companies
I,
and other
yeah, you
things
shouldn't work
like
for companies, and I mean, I never said that. You never should. I mean, yeah, of course you shouldn't work for DC for free. Of course not. But so I always thought I mean, that's obvious, but we're just mentioning that because because there's something that, for example, I went to San Diego Comic Con, even before starting working on our webcomic, and there was like a speed dating for artists and writers there. I found that no, very fun. So, and I started to talk to some writers, and at the time I sucked. I really sucked. Even I sucked so much that I showed some pages to a writer, then, and she said, "Oh, you draw waves so beautiful," and I was like, "That's sand. It's a desert." So, but I was talking to writers, and like the writer there, especially remember a writer team there, two guys, and they were searching for an artist to work for free on their comic for 2 years, and I was thinking to myself like, how? How are you searching for an artist for 2 years? I mean, it's for free. You should work with anyone that appears in
Yeah.
your face, even if the artists suck, because it's important for you as a writer to show that you are producing stuff,
But taking 2 years to
because
find someone.
writers, people are like, they are being picky when working for free, you
Yeah,
know
they want an artist from Marvel to work for
Yeah,
free.
yeah, it's like
I don't know.
crazy. I met some writers there that I worked for like five pages for free, and because I wanted to try and get experience to write working with another person over the internet, over from another country, and work on another person script, and I got that, and it was fun. I had some bad experience with another one. It was a crazy guy that wanted me to sign a contract, and he would create the next X-Men and would be a movie franchise, and I was like, yeah, because he already worked with some
Movie.
movie companies, and I was like, yeah, that's cool, but he was crazy, and I was like, yeah, I'm out.
Yeah, I definitely don't think that you should reject something just on the basis of an idea that you disagree with, like work for free. I think it's more complicated than that.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
And from that, I have a couple more questions just based on that. And then I have some more questions. I know it's late where you guys are.
No,
So
No,
it's
if
not.
it's fine.
It's
let me
fine
know
because
whenever you need to go. So,
I don't need to
um,
go. Never.
Yeah,
it's that.
never.
It's like we like to talk, especially me.
Yeah, especially though. I don't know if you noticed, but
no, that's perfect. That makes it easy for me. So you're good. So from that, I'd like to circle back to the fact that Webtoon crowdfunding, it's exciting, but maybe not the most profitable, at least for now. So, how are you guys making it professionally? What avenue has been the most lucrative for you?
I've um I've worked on kind of an indie comic with a guy that wrote a story, and he was paying for me to draw it. So that's one of the jobs that I got. I worked on some hired webcomic stuff that I got a guy that posts sometimes a new chapter of his webcomic. He hired me many times, and here in Brazil, it's good money. It's really good money to work on commissions. Even like we right now at the moment we're doing like commissions for $60, uh print not printed, like
original,
original one,
traditional
and
commissions.
it's kind of okay or maybe cheap, but for us it's great money,
Yeah, the dollar exchange is.
and Mika is making the big bucks because
Yeah.
she everyone always told us like
That I was going to be the one that was going to get a job
first,
first.
because she's the colorist. They said the colorist gets a job easier, because to get a job as a line artist is hard. And actually I got the first job, but
Yeah,
then she just flies. So
yeah.
to me right now, it's kind of hard. It's really hard because it's strange. Comics is strange. Like sometimes I just thought when I started learning, I just thought like I just need to be the best. I just need to be really good, and then people will hire me. But it's not like then
Maybe you're not the best.
no, I'm not the best, of course not, but I'm good enough to work on
Yeah, you
a
are.
comic. I know that, but it's hard because the editors don't want to see. They don't want to see new
Yeah,
pages, and it's a very hard
it's
place.
very hard for editors to want to see line artists, but it's very easy for them to want to see colorists.
Yeah, and uh, that's where we are right now. I don't really know where
Yeah,
we're going. If I will keep trying to get, maybe I will, but chemical industry is,
yeah,
especially the American one, it's kind of weird. It's kind of weird right now, and
yeah.
especially if the quarantine stuff with a lot of cancellations. And I don't know when it will come back, but we're seeing many people being very successful with crowdfunding campaigns,
Yes,
and I'm thinking about that. I'm thinking maybe building our name with some small publishers like Alterna Comics or something. But
because so far our comic is giving us nothing but good comments on webtoons, but and we are earning from other comic related jobs, but not related to our own.
Interesting. Yeah, it would I think you guys deserve to have that for your own projects as well. Although I think regardless, it's exciting that you're able to be an example of a team who's making art their full-time gig. I think that's alone is a point of pride.
yeah, yeah, I'm very happy with that
Yes.
because changing careers was really hard for me because the pressure of everyone around me, the pressure of being like I was earning money. It was okay. It's not a I don't know if it's better in America for engineers, but here is okay, kind
Yeah,
okay-ish.
it's not
It's not
much.
that like people hype that profession a lot, and in the end, I when I really experienced it, it wasn't. But it was a steady job, right? And when I changed it, I spent a lot of my savings, and I always like had this certainty that I will make it. I will start work with that, but it was very hard because it's a very hard industry.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're willing to like commit to something like that, it's good to know that even people who are doing it professionally can acknowledge that it's tough. Like it's okay to
Yeah.
acknowledge that it's a hard career field
Yeah, I
to
mean,
aspire to.
it's I will not like it. I love it. It's very it's very nice to have your own time to do how things however you want, and maybe I don't want to be a freelancer, I don't want that job right now. Let me take a trip and enjoy life for some time. It's awesome, but it's sometimes like, yeah, I need some work and there's nothing coming out.
Yes.
Right. It's funny because I've heard that about coloring as well, and I think that kind of goes back to this idea that unfortunately coloring is an undervalued step in the process because somebody's coloring could be their style of coloring could be as diverse as your inking style. So, in a way, that undervaluing kind of works to your advantage. It's like, oh, sure, I'll take a chance on you, you know?
Yeah, it's strange. I mean, not to undervalue coloring, because as I said, I think it's much more important than people, even in the industry, even the professionals give it. But it's easier, to be honest. It's not as time consuming, and
Yeah.
it's way easier than to to draw.
To draw and yeah, I don't know.
But I think what I mean is that as it's easier, I imagine that it should have more people in this industry and should be even
Mm.
more competitive than drawing, right? But that's what surprised me when I've heard from other professional artists say, "No, no, no, she's going to get a job before you."
Yeah, because they
Hmm.
need color is the
Mm.
and I
dying race.
and it's not just like because people, I think people prefer drawing. Like
Yes,
people prefer drawing. It's
Yeah.
very hard to
just like there's a lot of more writers than artists, because they
Mm.
want to make their to write their stories, but they don't know how to draw, and it's too difficult because art. So there's a lot of writers, and there's less artists and even less colorists.
Yeah, I mean, I pay people to flat my stuff because I'm too it's too much. It's
Yeah,
too
I
much. I
know.
gotta
I've
I
paid
gotta cut out
people.
time where I
yeah,
can,
Mika
you know?
pays me.
Yeah.
Because I'm not working, so I
Yeah,
have to
and
help
I
her.
have been paid to flat at
Yeah,
the beginning too.
her
Yeah.
first job was flatting.
Yes.
And I still love the coloring when I'm like correcting the flats and adding like a little bit of shading though. I think that's actually probably one of my favorite steps because I think that's like when the comic really kind of comes to life and you kind
Yeah.
of get to see everything together.
Yeah, it's something Edu will never know because he doesn't color, but
Well, coming back to the fact that when we were talking about like working for free or whatever, and how you guys are basically advocating for collaboration and the fact that you guys are collaborating, for someone who is maybe listening or will listen and is thinking about working with someone else, what like challenges and benefits have you guys discovered as working as a team?
I mean, for us, it's easier because we are a couple, and it's easier, you
yeah,
know.
we don't discuss a lot of, I mean, we
We
basically agree with each other on
yeah,
everything.
yeah, and we learn to let, especially me. I learned to uh really trust Mika's colors because at the beginning
Yeah,
I
I sucked.
criticized I
I
criticized a
sucked.
lot. Even though
So
I sucked, I criticized a lot. I pinpointed a lot of stuff that I wanted to change, but we over time I learned to trust her. Today she
yeah.
asks stuff to me, and I like whatever, do whatever you think is best.
Yeah, and same with me because it's very rare that I have to point something weird on his drawing. It's very, very rare.
Because I'm good, okay.
I-
But for if someone's listening, what I mean by collaborating is what I would say is do not collaborate with anyone. Look for some, if you are, for example, if you are an artist, every writer should, at least every non-professional writer should be crazy to work with you, even if you don't, if you, even if you're not good, you know. They should, because they don't have any money. They don't want to pay you, you know. They just want to collaborate, and there are a bunch of writers that would love to work for free with you even if you suck. And I would say, like, for an, as an artist, you have the upper hand, so you can choose. You can choose. You go see at other stuff this guy writed, and see if you like his writing style, see if you like
the
the
plot?
the plot, the way, the project he's
Yes.
proposing for you. And especially work on small stuff, like, oh no, let me see, let's work
Yeah,
on,
don't get something of 60 pages. Get something of 5,
yeah,
10.
five pages, 10 pages. There are the, I mean, you can choose, and it's fun, because if you suck, probably no one wants to pay you, you know. And
And you
you
get a good experience from
yeah,
it.
it's good experience because it's something that maybe you don't write, you know. Maybe you're not a good writer, maybe you don't have good ideas, but there's a bunch of writers there that
Yeah.
have good ideas, and you maybe you find it. I'm not saying to work with anyone. I'm saying, like, maybe you want to create, because there's a bunch of artists that want to work on stuff, you know.
Yes,
They
on
want to
stuff that they want to see come live.
yeah, but they are really not writers
Yeah.
themselves, and I mean, you can. There are a bunch of writers on the internet that you can find and work, and you can choose. If you're a
Yes.
writer, accept anyone.
Yeah, accept
Anyone
everyone.
you have, because seriously, I've seen some writers that accept anyone that wants to work on their stuff. They accept, even if it sucks, even if it's experimental. They like write some stuff like 5 or 3 pages for them, and then you have a body of work,
Yeah.
because that's something that I think. I mean, I get very angry with those writers, because come on, man, you don't have any money, to pay to no one, and you want this artist to be good. Come on, because writer needs practice too. He
Yeah,
needs practice. He
both
need
of them.
Mm.
Not only they need, like, usually artists are always in their houses, they don't go out much. They also need to know
yeah,
how it is to work with another person, to not get super angry with anything
yeah,
that they
because
say, because they will say stuff
because
about you.
what let me tell you guys that do not have not worked on the art industry. You think that maybe your McDonald's job people are crazy? No, everyone is crazy everywhere, because
Yes, I thought
man,
people would be more professional, you know. But no, they like to tell you excuses for whatever, tell you
they
you
berate you for stuff.
yes,
It's crazy. People
they
are crazy, and they ask you stuff, and
they ask of you impossible stuff, like suddenly, you know, and you have to learn to deal with that, you know.
yeah. So that's why I say work stuff, because create stuff. I like people that create stuff, that work on
Yes,
stuff.
yes.
Right. So you don't necessarily have to be married to your teammate, but you should trust them. So we're a little far in for me to just be asking about this, but Children of the Moon. Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
So I mean this as a compliment, but this story is crazy. It's a super wild ride. The whole time I was reading it, I was thinking, this isn't like anything I've ever read before.
Wow.
Perhaps,
Wow.
maybe like, and this is another compliment, like Tales of the Crypt kind of vibes. So
Oh.
Wow. I'm
I
so
love
happy
that.
right now. I'm so happy.
Yeah, yeah. So tell me about this idea, because it's so different. I love it.
I'm so happy to hear that, because I've had the idea, because I was working on an idea, but the first idea that I had, it was crazy. So
Completely different.
it
The
was
first cat
no,
comic
no,
that
not
was
even
it.
a saying about the first Capcom that I had. I was working on another stuff, but it's what's too long, because people always
Oh,
say
okay.
like work on small stuff, work on small stuff.
Mm.
My teacher was saying work on small stuff, and I was like, no. But then okay, my first comic will be a small comic, and then I had this idea about cats and the darkness. I had this idea like, because it's a kind of a joke, like, yeah, cats are the spawn of the devil. So I was like, yeah, so maybe I should work on that stuff, Like everything that you see is like kind of about the mythology of cats, Like they
They see
when
stuff in the
yeah, they
dark.
see when you have I don't know if you have a cat, Annie, but cats are
I'm a dog person. No offense.
oh, come on. I don't like you anymore. So cats are weird, sometimes they look at the corner
They
of
just stare.
they stare at the corner of the room like there's something there, and you were like, come on, what's there? So I was joking with that. Sometimes they appear out of nowhere, like they are in
Yeah.
the other side of the room, and when you look again, they are by your side. And then it's a kind of a
Teleport.
play with this stuff, like they are actually seeing stuff in the dark. They are actually the spawn of the devil, and when they appear out of nowhere, it's because they are teleporting through the shadow, through the darkness. So it's kind of is gonna play with that mythology, and I love Lovecraft, so I wanted to do something with that.
Yeah, the Cthulhu kind of designs definitely
Yeah.
come through. I like that. Uh, so when dealing with horror, I think there's a fine line between something being visually appealing and then like too gross. And I think that all the designs, like the kind of Cthulhu inspired ones, are still so aesthetically pleasing. Do you think that there's a balance there in wanting to make things like gross and creepy, but also still wanting people to look at it?
That's a great question, because the pages that I working on, the next pages that are going up, honestly, they make me nauseous. Like I look at them and I was like, ew, they are so gross. What's happening to these people? And I love it. So I kind of disagree with you in there, because I like to make people gross now. I like to make people look at that stuff and like don't want to look there anymore. You know,
Yeah, I don't think he ever thought of, oh, I need to be less gross here.
and I mean, there's some maybe on gore, right? Because sometimes gore is like tacky. I don't know, like
Cheesy, too
cheesy,
much. I
yes.
don't know.
And at first, I was like, I don't care. But now I'm a little more mature on that part. But I'm always inspired by Junji Ito. I don't know if you know him. It's
Yes, I'm so glad you said it because I was blanking on the name and that yes, but yeah, go ahead. I'm glad
so
you brought him up.
I love his stuff, because I've even seen I don't know which professional comic artist said that, because he said, I never thought that you could be scared of a comic, because I was like that too. I don't think there's, when you say horror comics is kind of like a suspense, or oh, it's like
Or simply gore.
yeah, simply gore. But because we are actually, movies make us scared because of the audio, right?
Yes.
The
Hmm.
audio creates this
Tension.
tension, and then the release of tension, and comics don't have sounds, so I never thought it could do that. But reading Junji Ito is another thing. You can I had goosebumps just now, remembering the pages and the terror, because the images in Jujinto are so terrifying. It's something like, you look at the open head, a girl's head and stuff. It's like really crawls inside your mind, and with imagery, like something like that you can't do in movies, because you would look at that in a movie and the special effects would look, you know, silly.
Yeah.
A movie like that would look
There is
silly.
an anime of Junji Ito, and we watched
Yeah,
it. It
it's not
was kind of
very good. Yeah,
it was kind
because
of weird.
his art
I laughed.
is so detailed, and the way he thinks and the way he creates those images are terrifying. And I wouldn't say that I'm trying to be like him, because I'm more like, I am influenced by his stuff. I like to create all her stuff, but I'm more like thriller guy, because I'm hyped when I think of the scenes. I'm hyped about the action scenes, about the stuff, but I still like the terrible or horrible stuff,
Comics are unique and they have a special quality when it comes to horror. I think the only one I can compare in film is maybe Ari Aster, who did Hereditary and
Mm-hmm.
Midsommar. And the thing that I noticed that he does to kind of disturb us is that he holds. There's these long takes where you're
Yeah.
kind of just made to look at something. And I think with comics, it's a still image where the reader has this feeling almost like when you're a kid and you know you're not supposed to be looking at something. It's like you want to
Mm-hmm.
look at it more
Yeah, yeah.
because it's creepy and weird.
Yeah, especially with manga, because they have a technique that American comics that don't really use. that they change the amount of details from page to page, from scene to scene, So when something is very dramatic, they start with a lot of details on the page or on the image, and you notice that that's something that you should look. When there's a bunch of details, you should look at it, and you start looking at it and you feel the drama on it. In American comics, Occidental comics, you don't really see that technique used a lot.
I like that. Yeah, I think I agree. Yeah, we need to be creepier with our content.
Definitely.
So we've talked about style before, and I know in your videos you've kind of alluded to having certain sources of inspiration. For both of you, who would you say are your major influences?
Me, as an artist, it's hard because I'm I think maybe in my video about style, developing your own style, I thought I say that you're maybe to develop your own style, you should choose your favorite artists and copy them, right, and mishmash them together to create some stuff. But sometimes your favorite artist is not the one that you really want to look like. So I have like Frank Quitely is an American
Mm.
artist, and his stuff is ugly. Mika hates him. he
Yeah.
works he worked a lot with Grant Morrison, and especially in the new X-Men run, especially American comic readers will probably know, but he worked on the new X-Men run a bunch of years ago, and his all his characters are ugly. Everyone looks ugly. Even the women are ugly, but I love it. It's such a stylish thing. But I don't want to copy it at all. Uh my real influencer would be Joelle Jones, I think it's how
Yeah,
you pronounce Joelle Jones.
Joel Jones. I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Man, she worked on Batman, she worked on
Catwoman.
Catwoman, she wrote
Mm.
and did the art for Catwoman like last year. And her art always impressed me because I mean it's beautiful, but she used the line art is very thick, and she put lines on everything, and in the shadows of people's faces. So you see a lot of lines in. I loved her style. I love her style, and she's the one that I was like, still today I'm like, so how does she do that? Let me copy her because man, I love her style. And Frank Cho. Frank Cho is an incredible artist. I don't think anyone would disagree. His women are beautiful, and I try to a lot to copy the way that the faces that he draws and the way that he inks. And so I've even had people said to me that your style reminds me of Frank Cho, and I was like so happy about that. But yeah, especially those two. Yeah, I mishmash those two because Joelle Jones doesn't do little scratches like hash
Hashers.
reshers.
Hashers.
I don't know how to say that, but there's American comics. The artists do a lot of hashers, like little lines to to imply the shadows. She doesn't do that. She's very flat. It's black flat or not. So I try to do that. Frank Cho does that a lot too. There's almost no blacks in his stuff, so he relies a lot on his colorists. So that's something that I try to do because I have a colorist right by my side. So I can rely on her to do a lot of stuff, to really make the art pop. There's something that the American comic artists don't do because they are not really working side to side with the colorists. So
Mm.
they need to do their best to do not rely on the colors. That's something that editors are looking for because they look at your art and see if you rely too much on the colorists because that's how they roll. So today you're seeing many famous comic artists, they are even doing tones, gray
Great tones.
tones, and taking the job of colorists
Yeah.
almost.
Yeah.
What about you, Mika?
Well, depends on what I'm working on. I try to be inspired by two different artists. Like if I'm doing pages, I really like to. I am still very influenced by my teacher, and I don't think it's just because he was the one that taught me, because the other teacher didn't influence me that much, but my last one did. Diju Lima, he is also a Brazilian colorist,
Hmm.
and I really like his style, and I always try to see how he managed some things on his pages. But if I'm working on pinups, covers, etc. I try to see more of Alejandro Sanchez. He
Hmm.
Because I really like how he details stuff, but I don't like to do that on pages that much, because on pages I like to be fast, and on covers and pinups I like to stop and think, oh, should I add this nice detail here or there? And I think Sanchez does that really well. The way he likes to paint instead of using lasso or whatever. So I
Hmm.
really like painting and taking my time with covers. So I try to be more influenced by him.
That's nice. So it's more of a traditional approach.
Yeah, with the covers it's more, even though he also does digital, everything digital, he's very painterly in his style.
Very nice. Something I especially wanted to ask you guys because, again, I got to reference that same webcomic mistakes video because I thought it was great. Uh, believe in one of them, you very eloquently say, "Stop playing video games, get off your ass." I just love that. Do you have any time management tips?
I I'm a gamer. I even being sometimes in my life addicted to games, especially RPGs, those AMR RPGs. So I speak from the heart because I love video games. And I had to choose sometimes in my life. I was working by the day, and by the night, I could choose to watch Netflix or do other stuff, but I had to choose to work on my webcomic because that's what I wanted to do in my life. I wanted to be an artist. I want to create that comic to exist. And it's hard because it's some discussion that I even had in the some art communities, but people really, as I said, they don't took that lightly because when you say, "May guys, don't you think that maybe video games are bad? Like, what's the role of video games in our life? Because this is what I think. You are working a lot in your day, and then you are tired, right? Video games, differently from books and movies and music, it's not a passive entertainment. It's an active entertainment. You have to engage in it. And some different video games, I don't know if you play if any video games, any, but some video games are harder than others, and they take your take energy from you. And I always wonder, I ask, and still today I ask it, what's the role of this kind of game in our life? Even though I play some games that really take my energy, I like fighting games, I like some shooters, and I always wonder what shouldn't I be, if I have enough energy to be playing this game, shouldn't I be working on my comics, on my art stuff, right? So that's something that I think it's really hard, but I think you individually should answer that, right? And you should ask yourself that, can I work on my web comic or my art today? it's something that I can do, I have the energy for that, then you should, I think. But of course, sometimes you have to take some time off, right? We cannot work 100% of the time. But I think, especially in our generation today, we are giving too much space to entertainment and
Hmm.
not sacrificing that time enough, right? But because that's what I have to say. Because honestly, time management, I suck at it. Right, I suck at it. I so I'm always trying to work on waking up earlier, sleeping earlier, and being more productive and not sleeping in afternoons. It's I struggle for everyone, but that's something that I can propose for other people to think about, right?
Right. I know what you mean, where for me, the ultimate relaxation is video games because like you said, it's not a passive activity. Like I can put on a movie and still be able to draw. Probably not as well as if I was working in silence or just with music or a podcast or something. But do think it's important to make time for that relaxation, but to also be to honest with yourself, which is something I appreciated in the tone of your channel and your videos. Um, which, speaking of, how do you ensure that work life balance, especially when art is something that you enjoy doing?
That's hard.
Yes.
That's hard. I think I think that I everyone should push as much as you can. To be honest, I don't think that, because I think we are naturally at fault in thinking, examining, uh, examining really. Oh yeah, right now I should play video games. Right now I should rest. I think you should push, and you will feel when you should, take some time off. I mean, you need to be careful to not really burn out, and something that you will. I mean, with time you will train yourself,
Yeah.
With time you'll train yourself, and but I think you like, just like weightlifting, you should push yourself. It should be hard. It should not be light. Oh,
Yeah.
let me just draw for 10 minutes today. No, push it. If you can, at first, if you are trying to get on a schedule, start small, just like weightlifting. Uh,
Yes.
but push yourself. Let's push it. And if you are starting to feeling burnout, maybe you know you will. With time, we will learn.
Yeah. It was hard for me because I think I'm kind of
Yeah,
workaholic.
Mika is a workaholic. I am a
Same,
lazy.
same.
Yeah, it's difficult because I'm a workaholic and like he said, he's lazy. So we try to learn from each other. He
Look,
helped me. No, no, no.
look.
He helped me a lot. And sometimes with his influence, I think I'm being way too lazy now.
Come on, look. I'm not lazy. It's just like I'm the creative guy. I need time to look up and dream. Right.
Uh-huh. Right.
Well, yeah, I agree though. It's hard to find that balance, but at the same time, it's important to push yourself and just check in with yourself and kind of know when you've reached your limit. How does it feel now that you are so close to the end of your project?
Wow, I can't wait. I can't wait because I have so many other ideas. I want to work on some
Yeah.
other stuff.
Even though it was supposed to be something short, because of our hiatus and life, it took so long, more than two
Yeah,
years,
yeah,
and I know a lot of his other ideas, and I want to work on them.
yeah. I can't wait to start working on other stuff, and I can't wait to finish it because I want to have a finished product. I
Yeah,
want to
it would
sell this
be
stuff.
magical.
Yeah, I want to tell people like, look, buy my comic, right?
Yeah,
It would be awesome, and it's cool to finish stuff. It's really good to finish it because when you finish stuff, people know that you finish stuff.
Yeah, you're a
Something that
finisher.
because webcomics go most of our comics I
Go
see go
forever,
forever.
or just
Mm.
stop and the person don't continue.
Right. It's good to have something done. I think there's a lot of accomplishment in that and pride for sure.
Yeah.
What kind of projects can we expect from you guys in the future?
Yeah, I probably not our.
Yeah,
Probably not
Oh,
our. I'm
more like
working
adventure.
probably not actually.
There's no. There's the detective one.
Yeah, I'm working on like a detective noir story. Not really noir, like it's crazy too. Like in a fantasy world, like detective story, crazy full of magic and colors, but with a noir feel. So yeah, I'm thinking about that.
well, that's exciting. And you guys have been super easy and fun to talk to. So thank you. I know I've kept you longer than I usually keep people. So
Oh, it was a great
Yeah,
talk.
it was fun.
It was very fun.
just looking to wrap up. Again, I know it's late where you guys are. What advice would you have for people who are trying to do the same thing, be a comic book artist?
For people that are trying to be a comic book artist, do stuff, work, create stuff. If you are not a writer, if you don't see yourself writing, if you don't have this feeling, work with some other people on short stuff. Or if you want to be a professional one, like work with the big boys like Marvel or DC, you, work hard, work really, really hard.
There
And
are internet scripts from official
yeah, but
Marvel things
the
too.
overall, do stuff, work on it.
Yes.
Don't play video games.
Research, study a
Don't
lot.
play video games. Stop Netflix. Stop with Vampire Diaries. That stuff is
No,
addicting.
no.
Just work. Sit and work. That's great, man. I get so hyped with people that have day jobs and other careers and
And
still.
still work their butts.
Yeah, I get
Yeah.
so hyped. I have some friends that are writers, and I get so happy to talk with those people.
Yeah.
Well, I totally agree. If people want to find you on social media, where all could they find you?
We have a bunch of them, but
Mostly on Instagram.
Instagram, we post weekly, like almost daily sometimes, but it's Barbusco underline studios
Yes.
in Instagram. It's the same thing for Twitch because we are streaming weekly at least.
Yeah.
It's sometimes I stream, sometimes
Sometimes I
Mika
stream. Yeah.
streams. So Barbusco Studios on Twitch too, and we have YouTube channel too, Barbusco Studios too.
Everything Barbusco
Barbusco
Studios.
Studios. Yeah, Barbusco Studios. You will find us somewhere.
Excellent. Is that hard to keep up with posting so much on Instagram and Twitch and
Yeah.
YouTube?
Yeah, it's hard because you never know. You never know. Should I be working on my webcomic? Should I be working on YouTube? Should I be, doing stuff for Twitch? So it's very hard.
I agree. It's you want to be sure you're like investing your time in the right place. I
Yeah.
think no time practicing what you want to do is wasted time though.
Yeah, that's completely right.
Well, I really hope that you keep making YouTube videos too, because I like I said, I got a real kick out of binging all of them. So
Oh, that's really great. I'm really happy
Yeah,
because
thank
I
you.
just stopped, because I was like, no one watches this stuff and I'm so cringy.
no, not at all. I mean, do what you want to do, but I like it. Well, again, thank you guys so much. I really loved hearing all that you had to say.
Thank you, Annie.
Thank you.
Thank you again to both Eduardo and Mika of Barbusco Studios for joining me for the podcast. Like I mentioned a bunch, both in the interview and at the start of this video, definitely check out their YouTube channel as well, especially their video on the mistakes of webcomics. I think that is especially relevant and really insightful and helpful, as well as, of course, their webcomic Children of the Moon as well. I'll have all of that linked below. If you are so inclined and you want to hear more of this podcast, be sure to hit that subscribe button too. And if you are at all curious, you can check out my webcomic on Webtoon called Soul Match. As always, thank you for listening, and I will see you all again next Monday.